back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley in Washington commenting on the strange case of a Major Patsy, Major Hassan. In his PowerPoint presentation, Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences, Bethesda, Maryland, part of that immense NIH, National Institutes of Health, Bethesda Naval Medical Center complex, he's all about the Quranic worldview as it relates to Muslims in the U.S. military. Well, worldview, this is academic. It implies that the Quran, Islam itself, are a worldview or Weltanschauung among others. And this, of course, is not the view of the Islamic fundamentalist. The Islamic fundamentalist says this represents absolute authority, the authority of absolute revealed truth, no questions about it. It's not among others. It's above, beyond, transcends, not comparable. So a strange thing. And, of course, in the course of this PowerPoint, fighting to establish an Islamic State to please God, even by force, is condoned by Islam. And he says Muslim soldiers should not be required to hurt other believers. Now, of course, you know, you think of the Iran-Iraq war, right? Lots and lots of Muslims killing other Muslims. You can find other cases where both sides are theocracies and not even secular dictatorships a la Saddam Hussein. But we've got about 1,300 years of Islamic armies killing each other in the Middle East, many times under theocratic rule. So this would seem to be, at the very least, radically anti-historical, what he says. But the most interesting, of course, is his tagline, "We love death more than you love life," says Hassan in the PowerPoint. That would normally be enough to get yourself investigated, right? The Defense Investigation Services would be after you. The FBI would be after you. But somehow, in the case of Major Hassan, nothing happens. This is the classic hallmark of the patsy. The patsy has got to blab. He's got to say things that are imprudent, that are reckless, that are daring, that are outrageous, that are going to get him noticed and noticed and noticed, and at the same time, nothing happens. Nobody lays a glove on him. We're told that then they have a meeting about him. You can see all this again in my essay, Nidal Malik Hassan of Virginia Tech, Bethesda, and Fort Hood, a major patsy in a drill gone live. So they have a meeting at Walter Reed Army Hospital, not far from this complex, not a part of exactly the same thing, but about a 15-minute drive away. So here we are now in the spring of 2008, and the big item on the agenda is Major Hassan a psychotic? He's disconnected, aloof, paranoid, belligerent, and schizoid. He is doing religious propaganda work. He tells one patient, Islam can save your soul. Well, not what you're supposed to do on company time when you're working for the government. So he's 6 years as a psychiatrist at Walter Reed Army Hospital. He's part of that mass of pain and suffering of the backwash of the Iraq and indeed Afghan wars. And then he goes to Fort Hood in the summer of 2009. So we've got a distinguished committee of august personalities between the NIH, the Bethesda complex, and the Walter Reed complex on Georgia Avenue, and they decide to do nothing. Maybe some of those people or their superiors or their advisors can get us into the area of the mole. In other words, the representative of the private network infiltrated into government, marching to a private drummer, I stress, and protecting Hassan because he's going to go on to do great things. One of them says that Hassan looks like the sergeant who killed two fellow soldiers in 2003 at the beginning of the invasion of Iraq. Hassan attends a mosque in Silver Spring where they routinely do fundraisers for the Chechen terrorists. That is to say, the CIA's Chechen terrorists being used against Russia. And then we have Anwar al-Awlaki. Now, this is the guy at the Dar al-Hijra Islamic Center, Falls Church, Virginia. And this, of course, Anwar al-Awlaki, double agent, U.S. intelligence agent. This is the Pied Piper of many a patsy. So it turns out that Major Hassan has fallen under the hypnotic influence of the fiery and charismatic double agent Awlaki. So the massive material about this. Interestingly, in 2001, Major Hassan and his mother worship at this Dar al-Hijra Mosque in Falls Church, Virginia. And who else do we find there? We find Hani Hanjour, the Dumb and Dumber pilot, right? Supposedly greater than the Red Baron in flying skills, but couldn't do it in reality. Absolutely excluded in the real physical universe. And we've also got Khalid al-Midar and Nawaz al-Hazmi. These people, all 9/11 figures of suicide pilots, hijackers, alleged, of course, no proof of any of this, but just to identify them for discussion purposes. These characters, Hazmi and Hanjour, are in the Falls Church, Virginia Mosque at the same time that Awlaki is preaching and at the same time that Hassan is going there with his mother, who then dies in 2001. And with this, he's very broken up because he's obviously very dependent on his mother. And any psychiatrist, when you hear the word mother, then you got to look in this direction and see what this implies. Hassan's eyes lit up when he mentioned his deep respect for Awlaki's teaching. All right. So we've also got what has Awlaki been up to lately? Awlaki has fled to Yemen, but he can recruit patsies at a distance, and this involves two cases: the Fort Dick Six, that is these 6 mental deficients, these 6 mentally impaired characters who thought they were going to barge into a base and start shooting and see how far they got, and they were rounded up. And then we also had the Toronto group. Remember the group that wanted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to bring them a lifetime supply of fertilizer and deposit it in the backyard. And then once they had that delivered, they were then rounded up. So Awlaki is part of entrapment operations with the Fort Dick Six and the Toronto Dupes. The reason for those operations, of course, is to keep this lunatic thesis of a separate Islamic caliphate, Islamic fundamentalist power going on in the world. Now, here's the interesting thing. The FBI has this joint counterterrorism center where these kinds of information are supposed to be distributed. So the question is, why doesn't the Defense Department find out that Hassan is sending emails to Awlaki in Yemen and getting answers? Interesting. Well, again, another FBI failure. In this case, the Pentagon says they were never notified. Why were they never notified? There is a Pentagon representative from the Defense Criminal Investigation Service in the Joint Terrorism Task Force run by the FBI, but the FBI has to give permission before the information can be shared with the home agency. So you've got a liaison person on the committee from the Pentagon, but they're told they're not allowed to tell it to the Pentagon, and apparently the Defense Criminal Investigation Service person goes along with it. So we have the FBI knowing but not telling the Pentagon about it, the Pentagon claiming we knew nothing. Here's the other thing. Major Hassan, very devout Muslim, right? All right, well, let's see. How does he spend his free time? Well, what he does is he goes to the Stars Strip Club not far from the base. 3 times during the month of October, we've got Major Hassan checking his military ID at the door, paying his $15 cover, staying for 6 or 7 hours, watching the strippers. We've got Jennifer Jenner, calling herself Paige, says that Hassan bought a lap dance from her 2 nights in a row. He came in with a 6-pack of light beer, drank a little bit, gave the other cans of beer to the strippers. He preferred blondes. Well, remember Amanda Keller, the strawberry blonde prostitute cohabiting with Atta, who loved alcohol, cocaine, call girls, and pork chops. Looks like they come from the same school.